sold the Tundra, I sold Poseidon, I bought a boat. This is Sea Eagle. Doing about 20 knots, cruising up the coast. Yeah, cruising at 20 knots all day, every day. That's always scary. I hate that so much. So it's a pretty cool system. I think the fit out turned out pretty well. This is going to be the new home. We're going to live on it pretty well full time. Currently we're down south of WA. Over the next couple of months, going to do a bit of work to it. And then we're going to send it up north for the peak season, dry season, up in the Kimberley region. And we're doing heaps of mad trips. Oh yeah, can't wait. It's going to be a sick adventure. Galley up, living area, bathroom, master cabin, in here, king bed. Oh. David, master, and the delivery's master's dad. Walking it. Front. That's up to Berkeley. That works.
Well, now that I've learned to measure, I'm going to measure everything.
What you doing?
Cleaning.
It's a nice view. Good angle.
Yeah, really working it in the suit.
Cleaning out the tiller flat. Gonna do some painting. Refit the exhaust and fit a water maker. You look very focused.
Yeah, that's because I am.
It's looking good though.
My year 12 art teacher would be so proud right now.
Right.
When we bought Sea Eagle, there's a few things that it didn't have. And one of the things that it didn't have was a water maker. So we decided to go with an Australian water making brand. One of the reasons it's a lot cheaper than a lot of the others, but it still has the capacity to do what we need it to do. And it's a DIY sort of job to do yourself, which is great because we're going to be spending most of our time in really remote areas away from marinas, no access to fresh water. So we need to be able to make our own water. Kind of a bit overwhelming looking at the system at the moment. So this is a system, you see there's a lot of filters, pre-filtered, low pressure filters, high pressure filters, a lot of fitments, a lot of pumps, a lot of hoses. So there's quite a lot going on with it. But luckily there's a really good installation menu to go with it. So I think it's a bit overwhelming at first to get wrapped your head around, but I think now we've got all the equipment. It comes in a really well packaged setup. And I think the first thing to do now is try to mock up a position of where it's going to go and figure out how it's actually going to work. Because there's one thing to have an idea in your mind of where you would like things to be. It's another thing altogether to actually have it in a position that works and fits properly and is accessible when you need it to be accessible, and so you can change the filters and everything else. So right now we're going to try to mock up an installation just to see how everything fits, where it all fits, and then we'll go from there. This is the tiller flat. And the idea point, what I'm thinking is we'll set the main filtration system and the high pressure pump in here, and then we'll fit the low pressure pump in the engine room where it's going to be mounted before the props and everything, so it should get much cleaner, better pickup when we're steaming. Well, that's the idea anyway. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, stage 1 complete. Getting the pre-filters in. I haven't done all the jets up properly yet. We're still mocking up the whole design just to see that it fits properly and it works properly. But I'm pretty confident this will be fine. So that's the first stage. Planning on doing it pretty similar to as the diagram says. The only difference is I'll be running the sea intake. I'll be putting that in the engine room, so I'll actually do a hole through this wall somewhere where it goes to, and then that connects down to this valve here, and that puts water into these filters, and then that goes to the high pressure pump, which is just have to decide on where I want to mount those. Somewhere in here I'm probably going to make up some sort of a frame or something so it sits flat. As you can see, it's quite slanty all through here. Yeah, first stage complete, which is good. Wasn't too bad. I think things will fit pretty well here. Okay, today is freezing cold, as you can probably tell, but I wanted to give an update on the water maker and how the progress on that is going. So I finally secured the high pressure cells where they're going to go, and then the low pressure filtration system in here. This is in Tillerflat. I found that this is the best, most convenient space for this vessel. It's out of the way, and then the high pressure pump and the low pressure pump and intake is actually going to be in the engine room, which is on the other side of this wall. So then I'll run the low pressure pump into this, and then the high pressure will go back into the other one, but I'll show you through that later. This is still at the first stage, so all the fittings aren't fully secured yet. But what I'm going to do now is fitting these end caps in only onto one side. So I'm going to secure these properly onto this side. This just allows me to fit it all together now, secure it all now. And then later on, when I'm ready to commission the system, when the boat's back in the water, I'll put the proper membranes in these tubes, and then I'll seal it all up properly and do that all properly later. But we can't let those membranes get dry, so which is why we're not doing that till the last minute. But we can fit these in now, and then there's still space over there to fit the membranes in when it needs to be. So I'll just go through now and finish installing these. So these are the 1/2 moon locking clips. So once you've put the end caps in, which look a bit like this, I've already put these ones in. They're quite a mission, so you have to lube up this rubber ring, and then you push them in and they clip into the end. So there's a little indentation on the inside of this here. So these have to go, the rubber section and the whole section has to go past that indentation, and then these 1/2 moon clips lock into that. Now they can only go in there one way, so you can't really stuff it up. But that's what they look like, fully secured. And now I will attach this other end of the high pressure hose to there. And then that will look something like that. And then I will put the other
freshwater centre hose in as well. Okay, so next onto the blue hose here. So this now connects to the centre, to the centre sections. But one thing I will say about this, if you ever do install a water maker yourself, make sure you read through the installation guide. It's very important that you read the instructions properly. Okay, she's in there. Now the last thing, little sealing clips, locking clips, sorry. And there you go. So that's that end done. So she's all tight in there. She's all secure. Good to go.
So this is the entry to the engine room, and this is where I plan on installing the high pressure pump. That's where I've decided to mount that, mainly because it's easily accessible, it's out of the way, and it's on flat level surface, which is a requirement for those. They do hold oil within the system, so they need to be flat and level. Now, as we go into the engine room, this is the Davies primary pump. So this Davies pump will be mounted up in the corner here. I'll make some brackets for it, and then it will sit just below that rib on that edge there. Now, a requirement for these pumps is they have to be level and they have to be below the waterline. So that in that position there puts the head of the pump just below the waterline. So it's a good little spot. One of the most important things for the feed for the water maker, but also probably the scariest thing for me, and something a bit nervous about doing, is the through-hole fitting or the skin fitting. Pretty scary. I hate drilling holes into the boat, especially below the waterline, but it's a necessity. That's always scary. I hate that so much. Here we go. You can see the hole is above me, just here. So that's where the new fitting is going to go. Yeah, it looks like a lot because it is. But I'd rather have too much than not enough of that stuff. All right, that should hold it there for a second. And while I go into the engine room and put the nut on the other. Okay, here we are back on the inside. Whew, that's nice and tight now. She's not going anywhere. Okay, so that's the through hole done. See there, she's nice and shiny. Now the only thing that I have to do to this now is I'm going to put a high-speed pickup. So that'll face that way, so when we're steaming in clear water, when we're steaming, it can pick up and pressurize the system. So that gives less of a chance for the pickup pump to get airlocks and that sort of stuff. So you see it's the same on the main engine, so they look very much the same as that. So that's the main engine. 1, which I'm also going to pull apart and clean.
Okay, back to installing the pump. Just made these brackets, and I've cut down the edges on the inside so water can pass through, because water can still sit in there at some point. So what we're going to do is put these down, a nice level platform, and then I'll put a platform on top, glue and screw, piece of wood that will go over the top of it like that. Okay, once we're all glued and screwed, we can put it in place. Perfect. Remember, this is marine ply. Okay, now that I know where the low pressure pump is going to be mounted in the engine room, and I'm happy with everything. I finally have the bolts and everything in place, so she's going to be nice and secure. So I'm going to glue that bracket and everything into that section in the engine room. But before I do that, what I thought I'd do is I'll put all the fittings on the pump properly. So we're just going to work on that now. Here we go. Next job, connects the hose up after I glue all these fittings together.
Just a little tip I wanted to sort of point out. So when you get hoses like this, especially with the weather like at the moment, it's super cold. Like, it's quite hard to, like, if you try to bend it, it just goes back in place, and it's just, or it kinks, and it's just a real pain in the ass to work with. So what I do instead is get a bath of hot water and just soak it. That way it becomes a lot more pliable, a lot more easy to use, and it will hold the shape that you want it to go. Like, when you put it into the hot water, it'll just naturally straighten itself out instead of being in a big curl. So the run that I'm doing with this is pretty straight. So, and it also softens the ends, makes it a lot easier to attach to your fittings as well. So yeah, we'll go and install that. So here we are back in the engine room. Got the hose nice and soft,
And attachments here, so they've been glued with a resin, and now we're just going to attach this.
Okay, so hoses are all done. Looks great, fits really well. I just put 2 hose clamps on this end and that end, just because of where it is, and I just, you know, in case one fails, at least as a backup for whatever reason. Last thing I want is any water coming out of this system here, and then just 1 hose clamp from there. This is a new through hole. It'll be exposed to the seawater. Last thing I have to do is earth that to the anodes. If you don't earth it to the anodes, then it could create different versions of electrolysis.
Secure that to this.
So all my through hole fittings on this vessel are stainless steel.
And there we have it, the grounding wire is secured. So that should save any electrolysis issues that we might come across in the future. Otherwise, she's all good down here, and time to get on to the next stage. Next stage, back in the tiller flat again, with the system here. Now we need to drill through the hole for this brine overboard discharge, and we have to drill one more in the engine room, same sort of height, and that one will be used as a high pressure overload discharge, just in case something happens to the high pressure pump and it gets blocked or something like that. It can discharge and release the valve. Get into drilling this one first.
Cleaning it up with a bit of acetone.
Finally, everything is in place and everything is in order as it should be. Took some time to get everything right and where it needed to be. There's actually a lot more hoses than I was expecting from the initial plans, but no, we've got it all sorted now. So last thing to do is strip this all back down and redo all the sealing, seal it up properly. Have finally finished installing the water maker. Pretty happy with the install. I think out of everything, the thing that took me the longest was figuring out where I wanted everything to sit, to make it serviceable, make it so it's not in the way, and all things that like easily accessible when they need to be. So I've got things in a couple of different compartments of the vessel, mostly in the engine room and in the tiller flat. So I'll start from the very beginning, which is the intake, which is just here. So fresh water comes in, runs up into the feed pump, and then from the feed pump we're running all the way down to the back engine feed pump. From the feed pump we're going into the pre-filters on the other side of this bulkhead. This hose feeds in from the feed pump into this filtration system, and then once they pass through those filters, they're coming into the high pressure pump through this one here, and then the high pressure pump will force the water through this black hose, which is a high pressure hose, into the other reverse osmosis filtration system. High pressure hose in through this reverse osmosis system, bypasses through that, and then eventually makes water coming back into this. And this is our litre per hour flow, fed in through this blue hose here, and then out of this blue hose here into my port water tank. This is just a relief valve if there's too much pressure for whatever reason, and then there's a relief bypass that flows over the side. So it's a pretty cool system. I think the fit out turned out pretty well, pretty happy with it all. It's easy, accessible. Yeah, quite happy with it. Let me know what you think. Chrissy is currently doing what is probably regarded as everyone's least favourite job of boat work. But she's doing a great job. You having fun?
I was in my own little world. I was having so much fun.
Yeah, it looks great. You're doing very well.
I'm not game enough to try this though.
Why not? You're gonna get to it sooner or later.
I'm not game enough to try this though because...
You've got to get to it sooner or later.
Well, one of us isn't here after tomorrow, so... because I tried a little bit and like almost had a sander to the face, so this bit's fine.
Yeah. This is coming up really good, eh?
I'm trying to get as much as it get it as even.
Yeah.
Because there's some pretty gnarly patches in it.
Yeah, those little patches will fix up.
Fill up.
But yeah.
I was like proper singing along to the, to the music then as well.
Oh, it's good. Looks really good. Doing well.
I have.
She is. Getting all the fun jobs done now so we can enjoy her later. Today is a very exciting day. Today is when we get all our new electronics. New radar, sounder, plotter, autopilot. Look at that, baby. So when we purchased this boat, didn't have autopilot or radar, and the electronic equipment was pretty outdated. Autopilot is really important, and radar. It's going to be fun to install and